Light and shadow vibrate differently. Which frequency are you in? What if I told you that everything, absolutely everything you've ever experienced is not just a circumstance, but a frequency? That your emotions, your choices, your relationships, your pain and your joy are all vibrating at a specific frequency? And what if I told you that there is a hidden architecture behind these vibrations, one built from the oldest forces in the universe, light and shadow? You see, most people live their lives oblivious to the fact that they are not simply reacting to the world, they are tuning into it like a radio. And the frequency you tune into determines the version of reality that unfolds before you. This is not metaphor, this is energy, this is vibration, and this is destiny, self-created, self-inflicted, or self-liberated.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Now, ask yourself, when you walk into a room, what do people feel? Do they feel warmth, clarity, elevation, or do they feel the subtle pull of doubt, heaviness, or defensiveness? You might think it's just personality or mood, but no, it is frequency. And the origin of that frequency is the balance of light and shadow within you. Let me take you deeper. Light is not just goodness, it's not just love or positivity. Light is clarity, it is raw awareness. It is the capacity to see yourself and the universe without distortion. Light frees, it exposes, it reveals. But it also holds you accountable, because to bask in light is to be seen. And most people, maybe even you, aren't ready to be truly seen. That's why we avoid silence, avoid eye contact, avoid deep self-reflection. Because light is truth, and truth can burn before it heals. Shadow, on the other hand, is not evil. Shadow is not darkness in the way we fear it. Shadow is the unintegrated. It is the forgotten, the denied, the rejected parts of ourselves. The trauma we buried, the desire we judged, the anger we suppressed, the shame we wore like a second skin. Shadow doesn't want to hurt you. It wants to be acknowledged. It wants to be brought into the light. But most people don't know how to face their shadow without collapsing into it. So instead, they project it onto others. They judge, they blame, they point fingers, because it's easier to see darkness out there than within. Here's the truth that few are willing to speak. Your frequency is not determined by how much you love the light, but how well you've made peace with your own shadow. Take a moment, breathe, let that sink in. You can't fake vibration. You can perform kindness, you can wear a smile, you can post quotes about gratitude and peace, but your energy won't lie. The universe doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your frequency. And your frequency is the sum total of your integrated light and shadow. So I must ask you, what have you not forgiven yourself for? What memory do you revisit in secret? What emotion always feels just beneath the surface, waiting for one small trigger to burst through? That is your shadow speaking. And here's a paradox. The more you avoid your shadow, the more it becomes your dominant frequency. And when shadow dominates, life becomes heavy, repetitive, confusing. You attract situations that echo old wounds. You meet people who reflect your pain. You find yourself trapped in loops, wondering why nothing ever changes. When in fact, you are the one broadcasting the same signal over and over again. But here's where the transformation begins. Imagine you are a prism. Light enters you, shadow resides within you. Together they create the full spectrum of who you are. When you begin to consciously recognize this, you stop labeling parts of yourself as bad or good. You start seeing them as vibrations, some dense, some subtle, all meaningful. And when you begin to own your entire spectrum, you rise, not out of shame, not out of fear, but out of wholeness. This is what the mystics understood. This is what ancient initiations were about. They weren't just about love and light. They were about facing the dragon within, descending into the underworld of your psyche and returning with your power reclaimed. That's why true spiritual growth isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's chaotic. Sometimes it's painful, because you're not just adding light, you're integrating shadow, and that process is alchemical. Let me tell you something that may shock you. Some of the most spiritually enlightened people you will ever meet carry immense shadow. But the difference is, they are aware of it. They've made peace with it. They've stopped fighting it. So it no longer drags them down. It becomes fuel for their service, their creativity, their compassion. So you must ask yourself, have I made peace with my darkness, or have I just pretended it doesn't exist? Because pretending is a frequency too, and the universe will keep reflecting back to you what you truly embody, not what you pretend to be. Now let's bring this into the practical. Start by observing your emotional patterns, not just the surface emotions, but the ones hiding beneath. When you feel anger, ask what fear is hiding under it. When you feel numb, ask what pain you're trying to avoid. When you feel superior, ask what part of you feels small. This is spiritual detective work. And it's not glamorous, but it's where real evolution happens. Next, begin a daily practice of sitting in stillness, not to escape your thoughts, but to witness them, to see which thoughts come from light and which come from shadow. Don't judge, don't analyze, just observe, because awareness itself begins to shift the frequency. Light doesn't need to fight shadow, it just needs to shine. And the more you observe, the more you'll start noticing the subtleties of energy. You'll feel when your heart contracts. You'll notice when your voice tightens. You'll sense when your truth is being edited for approval. That's when you know a shadow just took the mic. But you don't need to silence it, you just need to listen. Ask it, what are you trying to protect me from? What part of me still needs love? This is the work, not fancy, not flashy, but real. And over time, this work changes your frequency, not because you're adding something, but because you're becoming more honest, more whole. And wholeness is the highest vibration. Remember, the universe doesn't reward perfection, it responds to alignment. And alignment comes not from eliminating shadow, but from integrating it. So I leave you with this question, one only your soul can answer. Are you building your life from a place of light, pretending to be whole, or from the wholeness that has made peace with its shadow? The magnetic power of frequency, why you attract what you are. When we begin to understand that our inner vibration determines our outer reality, a quiet but undeniable shift begins. Suddenly life stops being something that happens to us and becomes something that responds through us. This realization is not just empowering, it is confronting, because it means that we are no longer victims of our circumstances. We are participants in a grand energetic exchange, whether we are conscious of it or not. And in this exchange, the magnet is your frequency. Now let's go deeper. Every thought you think, every emotion you suppress or express, every belief you hold, it all contributes to the energetic field you radiate. This field is not metaphorical, it is real, measurable, and constantly interacting with the fields of others and the larger matrix of the universe. You are not isolated, you are broadcasting, and the universe, in its infinite intelligence, matches you, not to what you want, but to what you are. That's why affirmations without embodiment often fall flat. You can say, "I am abundant" 1,000 times, but if your shadow is still echoing, "I am not enough," that is the frequency that dominates. Have you ever wondered why the same types of people or situations keep showing up in your life? It's not a coincidence. It's not the universe being cruel. It's resonance. You are attracting mirrors, some to show you your light, but most to show you your unresolved shadow. The toxic relationship, the betrayal, the abandonment, the scarcity, the conflict, it all acts as a sacred messenger. It's saying, "Look here, this is still vibrating within you," and until you transmute that vibration, the cycle continues. This is why spiritual bypassing is so dangerous. When we slap love and light stickers over deep-rooted wounds, we delay healing. We postpone the inevitable confrontation with our own inner frequencies. And the longer we avoid, the louder the external reality becomes. The lesson escalates until we finally listen. That's why some people face the same heartbreak over and over. It's not punishment, it's pattern. And every pattern is powered by a frequency. So how do we change the frequency? Not by force, not by pretending to be positive, but by becoming radically honest. By meeting ourselves in the raw, unfiltered spaces of our emotional landscape. Think of it like tuning an instrument. You don't fix a guitar string by ignoring that it's out of tune. You listen, you adjust, you feel, and only then does the harmony arise. Start noticing the moments when your energy contracts. When you feel jealousy, resentment, fear, or judgment, pause. Don't suppress it. Don't shame it. Get curious. Ask, what belief is hiding behind this emotion? Whose voice is this really? Where did I first learn to feel this way? Because once you identify the root, you take back the power. You stop being a puppet of unconscious programming and start becoming the author of your vibration. Let me tell you something that might challenge what you've been taught. Your shadow is not trying to sabotage you. It is trying to protect you, just in outdated and distorted ways. The fear that holds you back was born from a time when you were genuinely unsafe. The anger that lashes out was once a shield. The shame that silences you began as a way to stay accepted. These parts of you aren't evil, they're just unupdated. They are running on old scripts. And when you bring awareness to them, you begin to rewrite the code. One of the most powerful practices is to sit with a part of yourself you usually reject. Maybe it's the insecure you, the jealous you, the angry you. Visualize them, talk to them, ask them what they need, what they're afraid of, what they wish you knew. You'll be amazed at what comes through. Sometimes healing doesn't come from letting go, it comes from letting in, from embracing the parts we thought we had to exile in order to be good or spiritual. And here's the irony, the more you embrace your shadow, the higher your frequency becomes. Because now, instead of leaking energy through repression, you are radiating authenticity. And authenticity is magnetic. People feel it, life responds to it, opportunities align with it. You stop chasing and you start attracting. not because you become someone else, but because you finally become whole. So I'll ask you this. What if the very thing you're ashamed of is the key to your next level? What if the part of you you've been hiding is the exact frequency missing from your harmony? You see, light and shadow vibrate differently, but they also create a spectrum. And when you own the full spectrum of your being, you create a vibration so complete, so grounded and so real that the universe can't help but respond. You stop living in fragments. You stop oscillating between pretending and hiding. You become a clear channel. And from that clarity, your entire life begins to shift, because once you become aware of your frequency, you become responsible for it. And in that responsibility lies your freedom, the sacred mechanics of inner alchemy, turning shadow into light. Now that we understand how our vibration magnetizes our reality, we must step into the deeper, more sacred territory of inner alchemy, the transformation of shadow into light, density into clarity, pain into power. This is not a poetic concept. This is a living, breathing process that happens inside you every time you choose awareness over reaction, curiosity over judgment, presence over escape. And it's in this sacred space that your frequency undergoes its most profound evolution. Inner alchemy begins where most people stop, at discomfort. Discomfort is the gateway to your liberation, but we've been conditioned to avoid it at all costs. We numb it with distractions, drown it in noise, or try to fix it with quick solutions. But discomfort is not your enemy. It is the edge of your current identity. It's the whisper of the soul saying, "Go deeper. There's more here." If you can sit in it, not to suffer, but to witness, you begin to transform. This witnessing is powerful. It's what turns unconscious shadow into conscious choice. Because when you bring awareness to what you used to run from, you reclaim energy. That heavy memory you've carried for years, that regret you buried beneath a smile, that wound you turned into a personality trait, these are all units of energy frozen in time. They vibrate low, not because they are bad, but because they are unintegrated. And when you finally turn toward them, feel them, speak to them, love them, that energy unfreezes, it rises, it returns to you not as pain, but as wisdom, as clarity, as spiritual strength. But to do this, you must become the alchemist of your own psyche. You must stop outsourcing your healing to others. No guru, no teacher, no healer can do this work for you. They can guide you, yes, they can reflect, but the actual transmutation of your inner world happens only when you decide to stop running and start listening, and not listening with judgment, but with reverence. Can you meet your grief like a sacred guest? Can you hold your anger like a child who's scared? Can you bow to your shame and ask what it needs to finally rest? This is where transformation happens, not in dramatic awakenings or mystical visions, though those may come, but in the quiet, raw moments when you are finally honest with yourself, when you stop pretending to be okay, when you stop trying to be enlightened and instead you just be, fully, messily, authentically. That's the moment your frequency starts to change, because you're no longer split, you're no longer a fragmented performance. If you perceive a fragmented performance, you are one integrated field of awareness, emotion, memory, and presence. You are whole. A wholeness vibrates differently. It doesn't mean perfection. It means nothing is hidden, nothing is denied. And in that totality, you become powerful. Not the kind of power that dominates, but the kind that radiates. The kind of power that walks into a room and shifts the energy without saying a word. Because people can feel when someone has done the inner work, you don't need to convince them. You are the evidence. Think about that for a moment. What would your life look like if you stopped hiding anything from yourself? What would your relationships feel like if you brought your full self to them? Light and shadow, love and fear, truth and vulnerability. That is where real connection lives. That is where intimacy begins. And that's also where your frequency becomes a beacon for the right people, the right opportunities, the right timelines. You see, we live in a multidimensional reality. There are infinite versions of your life, each vibrating at a different frequency. The one you experience depends on where you are vibrating now, and the more you integrate, the more you elevate. This isn't just spiritual theory, it's energetic law. So the question is no longer, how do I get what I want? The question becomes, who must I become to vibrate in alignment with what is already mine? And the answer is always the same: become whole. Wholeness is the portal, choosing the frequency of your future. Now we arrive at the final threshold, the choice. Because after all the insight, all the awareness, all the witnessing of shadow and remembrance of light, what remains is your power to choose. This is where the spiritual journey becomes real. It's no longer just about understanding concepts or feeling temporary peace during a meditation. It's about who you choose to be in every moment and what frequency you choose to live from when no one is watching. The truth is, life will keep offering you two roads, one that loops and one that liberates. The loop is familiar. It's rooted in the old frequency patterns of self-doubt, fear, control, shame, guilt, comparison. It's seductive because it's known. It feels safe. But it keeps you small. It keeps you vibrating in survival mode, reacting to life instead of creating it. The other road, the liberating one, is unknown. It asks more of you. It asks you to surrender illusions, to let go of identities that no longer serve, to trust in a reality that vibrates higher than your current wounds can perceive. And every time you choose the second road, even in the smallest way, your frequency shifts. You begin to vibrate at the level of your future, not your past. You stop being a magnet for more of the same, and you start becoming a lighthouse for what's possible. But here's the paradox. You don't get there by denying your past. You get there by integrating it, by allowing every version of you to take a seat at the table. The broken you, the angry you, the grieving you, the hopeful you, the powerful you, they are all part of the same sacred being. And when they are seen, heard, and held in love, your vibration elevates, not because you became someone different, but because you finally allowed yourself to be fully you. So let me ask you something you may have never asked yourself. What is the frequency of your highest self? Not the version of you who is perfect, but the version who is whole, the one who walks with clarity, who speaks truth even when it shakes, who forgives without forgetting the lesson, who honors their shadow without letting it lead. Can you feel that version of you? Can you sense their energy? That version is not far. They are already within you, waiting to be chosen. This is the secret most people miss. You don't chase your future. You tune into it. You become it in vibration, and the reality around you reorganizes to match it. That's the power of frequency. That's the power of integration. And when you begin to live from this space, life becomes less about outcomes and more about alignment. You stop fixating on what's missing and start tuning into what's already present. You trust the invisible. You follow the inner signals. You become less reactive and more responsive. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this showing me about my vibration?" Because everything, every moment, every interaction, every challenge is feedback. It's not personal, it's vibrational, and that gives you your power back. You're not a victim of reality, you are a participant in its creation, moment by moment, choice by choice, frequency by frequency. So if you remember nothing else, remember this: the more you integrate your shadow, the more your light becomes unshakable. The more honest you are with yourself, the more powerful your vibration becomes, and the more aligned your energy, the more effortlessly life begins to flow. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to fix yourself. You need only to become whole. And in that wholeness, you will find the freedom, the clarity, and the frequency that has always been your birthright. So now, I leave you with one final question, the deepest one of all. If you could step into the frequency of your highest self right now, would you have the courage to never look back? Because the choice, my friend, is already in your hands. And your vibration, your true vibration, is already speaking. Listen closely, choose wisely, and rise.